Who scored the most points? What are the current transfer trends? What fixtures do we need to target? This is the FPL Kneejerk, where we react to the most recent game week. The Brazilian John Peter, João Pedro, brightened up Brighton's fans' days, helping them make Ten Hag look even more bold, beating Man United 2-1. West Ham blew Palace away like they were blowing bubbles, winning 2-0. Smith Rowe scored to help Fulham beat Leicester 2-1, also helping a lot of FPL teams as he got all of the bonus points, scoring a big 10-pointer. Haaland did Haaland things, scoring another hat-trick, with a lot of FPL managers also triple captaining him for the triple treble. Did you do it? Boy, I wish I did. Southampton, bad. That's my analysis for the week. Pickford showed us the levels you can go of giving away free goals without it being classed as match fixing, gifting Son and others all of the goals for Spurs to win 4-0. Arsenal were villains to Villa, with their own villain, Thomas Partey, scoring to help make them win 2-0. Newcastle are completely forgetting how to play football, with Isak nowhere to be seen with the points. Drawing in the Eddie Howe derby here. Chelsea 6. No, that's not how many players they've signed since this game, but it's how many goals they scored with Nkunku not on the pitch. He was benched and didn't come on till the 80th minute, so everybody's selling him. Meanwhile, Madueke scored a hat-trick and Palmer with a hat-trick of assists. And turns out, all Chelsea needed was a bald manager, and all of a sudden they know how to ball. And Luis Diaz and Salah slotted a goal each for Arne Slot, helping Liverpool keep the perfect record so far of another 2-0 victory. The team of the week this week looks very expensive, with the likes of Haaland, De Bruyne, Palmer and Son all being here. This is one of the highest scoring FPL team of the weeks in a single game week ever, with 151 points in total, with only one player not making double-digit points. Damn, son. This would have been my team, but I slept, missed the deadline. Maybe next time, yeah. But also, this feels like one of the more predictable team of the weeks, with it mainly consisting Chelsea, Man City, Spurs, Liverpool and Arsenal players. Literally just the best teams with the best fixtures. That's all FPL is. Interestingly though, not a single player here was in last week's team of the week, so all of the FPL points from the first two game weeks have been proper spread like butter. Madueke was the top point scorer for this week though, with a hat-trick of goals, all assisted by a hat-trick of assists by Palmer, making Madueke also score the most points out of any single player in a single game week so far this season, with 20 points. That will be tough to beat. The most transferred player in so far is Emil Smith Rowe, with him being a 10, scoring a 10, and playing Ipswich next. He could be a 10 out of 10 transfer, so he's definitely a good shout. Welbeck could be seeing another price rise because he has brought in so much, but he does also play Arsenal away next, so I actually think that is a proper wibbly-wobbly transfer I wouldn't recommend in before he scores another goal. Haaland is somehow the third most transferred player in, and I say somehow because the only way you get into him is if you're selling all of the big boy premiums or you wildcarding. But obviously he's certainly not a bad transfer, I just don't know who you're selling to get to him, so I'm just confused. Madueke made Nkunku owners mad after he scored a hat-trick and got 20 FPL points, so I can see why most are moving to him, and I wouldn't be too surprised if most of the transfers in for him are also just Nkunku out for Madueke. I would say that's a sideways move, but it's probably not sideways if it means you're taking out a player that's not playing and bringing one in that is playing. I think that's pretty upwards to me. And Palmer is the fifth most transferred player in, as turns out he's still cold. He could still be good value at 10.5 million, so maybe he could be another good transfer here. Overall, all but Welbeck actually seem like decent transfers, but all of them seem to be transfers by people who are already behind and just trying to catch up with the players who just scored the most points, but that's usually how most of the first few FPL transfers all go, without much thinking if they will continue to score the points, like a Welbeck who's playing Arsenal next. Does that make sense? In before he outscores all the other players in the transfer in, but yeah, that's just it. And the transfers out then, yeah, a bit more understandable here. Solanke is the most transferred out, as he was injured and missed Game Week 2, but even though he could be back for Game Week 3, he does play Newcastle and Arsenal next, so even if he was fit, it might even be worth a transfer out anyway, so the fact that he might not be fit, yeah, get him out. Foden was ill, so missed the Ipswich game, but I bet Foden owners were even more sick, with 14% of those managers out there missing him, where he could have got the biggest of the big boy points when all the other Man City players were getting all the points instead. He could very well be back for next week, but one FPL point in 2 games, yeah, that's enough to just rage transfer him out. If I had him, I would probably just not transfer him out. I'd probably just delete FPL instead. A lot of people are turning cold on Isak, as that's completely fair, to be fair, as he has not scored in his first 2 games. But with Spurs and Wolves next, I would say he's actually worth keeping, more because there's actually no other forward apart from Haaland that looks to actually be worth it instead of him right now. Eze is actually not an Eze transfer out if you've actually watched in the last couple of weeks, but man don't score FPL points, man gets transferred out. FPL summed up. And Barco showed a lot of FPL managers that they were barcoing up the wrong tree, with him not even playing in Game Week 1, and now even being loaned out to a completely different league. No chance of him playing in future game weeks. And like, he should be a bench defender though, so it probably shouldn't be a transfer priority out. But I think people see that red flag and be like, oh, I must use my transfer on him right now without looking at the rest of their squad. Overall, it seems to be the players that are getting transferred out the most are just the ones who either missed in terms of getting FPL points, where the first few FPL transfers for casuals always seems to be just player doesn't score points, get out player, rather than looking at if they could actually get points in the next few game weeks. And some of these players might very well do that. And it does very much feel like all of the players being transferred out just have an alternative that are just also doing better. So yeah, Isak could score points, but if you can somehow get the Haaland from him, maybe that's worth it. Game week 3 will have some very sexy fixtures and some very big FPL clashes. Brentford vs Southampton, Bournemouth vs Everton, and Nottingham Forest vs Wolves could see some very spicy differential points in there, with them being potentially the best fixtures this week, but are all teams that we probably aren't backing too much in terms of FPL. Aston Villa and Chelsea have very good fixtures here too, with Villa playing Leicester and Chelsea playing Palace, but both of them now start a great fixture run, so not only good for this week, could be the ones to target for the next few game weeks moving on. Meanwhile, the likes of Arsenal have a very tough game against Brighton. Spurs and Newcastle play against each other, where a lot of people have players for both of them, and Liverpool play Man United away. I say that as if that's a bad fixture. Probably won't be. I feel like this could actually be a week where a lot of the players that have done well so far won't do well because their fixture's just not there, and we could start to see some new assets arrive with the fixtures here, and maybe some teams we aren't quite considering yet, with the likes of Ipswich, Villa and that. So I would say be flexible with those plans and don't spend all of your transfers too early, as you never know what knee-jerk reaction we're going to have next week. But that's going to be all for the Game Week 3 knee-jerking over the Game Week's 2 action, reacting to how players scored this week and what everyone else is doing with their early transfers. Thanks for watching, and also remember,
don't be a cheeky scrub. Subscribe to Nathan Bacon right now. Don't let your memes be dreams.